Today, we are with a producer who's bringing us a brand new project for Christmas and the holidays, James Rocco. James, hi, how are you?
Hello. Hi, Susanna. Hello, Magda. How are you?
I love where you're at. I can see all the posters on the wall.
Well, this is my office in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I've been since March.
Wow, you immediately went up and away.
I was working in Seattle at the Fifth Avenue Theater, and I came home for the weekend, and all of a sudden we were all sheltering in place. And I felt that I was so lucky because I was going to be able to be with all of my stuff. Usually I'm living out of a suitcase.
What were you doing at Seattle?
I was working at the Fifth Avenue Theater, putting together some new works for them, helping them put together some new works. It was really fascinating.
What pieces were you putting together? Can you
We
talk
were,
about them?
I I know that one of them is actually going to have a radio play done in a couple of weeks, and I don't think they want me to talk about it yet.
Okay.
So, but I would happily talk about it in a couple of weeks.
Do us a
We
favor.
had done, though, we were just about to open up a production of Sister Act. And actually, it was supposed to open that Saturday night. And we all went into lockdown. We tried to work it out that we could still do one more dress rehearsal and film it. And that was never possible. And the next thing I knew, I thought I might be going back to Seattle in 2 weeks and we might be reopening the show. And I've been of course, we immediately, as you know what happened, and everything went virtual. We did a beautiful video, though, using a lot of Seattle actors, and immediately created a hashtag called Nothing Can Stop Live Theater, and did a video of actors sheltering in place singing the song You Can't Stop the Beat from Hairspray.
I love that video. That video is one of my favorite videos. Actually.
Well, I think there have been 2 of those videos, but you may have seen mine. And then I actually followed it up with another video of actors from the Twin Cities singing I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Oh, no, I saw them both.
Oh, wow. Well, wonderful. Wonderful.
Actually, yours was my favorite one.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome. How is Seattle Fifth Avenue doing? Because it is one of my favorite theaters. It's definitely a theater that was bringing in a lot of new works. And with everything that's going on, how is Seattle doing?
They are very smart and have been working virtually. They have an entire season of virtual productions planned. I am not currently working specifically with them. I went back to doing my individual projects like A Country Christmas Carol at that point, because I was basically working as an associate producer, jobbed in as needed. Actually, they've been the most loyal theater to me in my entire career. I first worked there in 1989, and I have continually worked there all the way through to 2020. So
Wow.
It's been amazing. They've been very, very, very loyal to me.
Before we get into A Country Christmas Carol, let's get into your background. I see Henry Sweet Henry.
Yes.
What did you do on that?
When I was 16 years old, I had the opportunity to produce and direct a show in New York City at the Mercer Street Arts Center, which was an arts complex in the Village. And I was a child actor, and I had been in a show at the Mercer Street Arts Center earlier in the year. And in looking back on it now, I realized this was some producer's idea of a publicity stunt to have like a dog and pony show of a kid producing and directing a show. But at the time, it was very serious to me. I got to produce and direct this show. And it was at the Mercer Street Arts Center at the time that the building collapsed to the ground.
Oh my God.
It was amazing because the Mercer Street Arts Center housed 6 theaters.
Right.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the Proposition, El Grande de Coca-Cola, they were all playing at this time. The theater collapsed to the ground, and I refused to leave the site because of naive age. I was, no, I'm not leaving. My show is in that building. And my father stayed with me on the street for 3 days. And we waited. And finally, they let us in the building. At the time, the Lambs Club, which is a very famous group of thespians who have a building or had a building on, I think it was 44th Street, and the theater in the building. And they made a challenge. They said, if that kid can get his show out of that building, we'll let him use our theater and to do his show. So we dragged the stuff out of the building, out of the rubble, what was left of it. Strangely enough, in the theater we were housed in, it fell like this. And so the set and everything was there. So we moved all the stuff up to the Lambs Club, and we got to perform the show for 2 weeks at their theater. And it was, so for me, this was a life-changing experience. And it was like baptism by catastrophe. And it actually, it got a lot of publicity. And all of a sudden, I was doing stuff. I went from being a child actor to a producer and a director. And I learned as I did. I got to tell you, in those early days, sometimes I remember one time doing a show and I locked myself in the bathroom because I didn't know what I was doing. So I acted out all the parts in the mirror, you know, but I learned how to do what I do.
Now, lead us through some highlights of your career so other people know who you are.
Well, I was very fortunate. I early on was in the film Child's Play that Sidney Lumet directed, not the one with Chucky. James Mason starred in it, but I had a little role, and I worked on the film for a number of weeks, and I was always the kind of person that would sit near the producer or the director. David Merrick produced it, and Sidney Lumet directed it. So I was fortunate enough to overhear how they worked. From there, I went into the Broadway production of Cats. I played the Rum Tum Tugger. I toured with the Ellington Band in Sophisticated Ladies, and then did one of the 2 TV versions that was produced in Japan, the one I did. Then I was part of the team that put together The Wizard of Oz that played at Madison Square Garden with Eartha Kitt and Mickey Rooney. And since then, I have been working all over the world as a director and a producer, but I sort of have this secret career as a singer. I occasionally come out of singing retirement. I sang with Herbie Hancock for a while, and I've made a couple of records, and they do okay. They get play, and here I am. I was the producing artistic director for the Ordway Center for the Performing Arts for about 15 years. And that's what brought me to the Twin Cities.
Well, then I'm going to ask you my favorite question to ask people. They say that eyes are the windows of the soul, but I think that songs are. What song or cycle of songs describes who James Rocco is?
I would have to say it's a combination of Stephen Sondheim songs and Jimmy Webb songs. I'm most connected to songs like Adios and Do What You Gotta Do, and I Keep It Hid. In fact, my handle on Instagram is You Will Never Know, and the name of this album actually is called It's Between Us, and it's one of my favorites and that I've done. But I also was fortunate enough to play The Witch and Into the Woods for 14 weeks, and at Walnut Street. And I gotta say that songs like No One Is Alone really, really define me. Or Now You Know for Merrily We Roll Along, Like It Was.
You do. I did not know your performing background, which is, I always knew your name, but I didn't know your performing background.
Oh, how interesting. How interesting.
Yeah, I always knew you as a director. So
well, that's what I've mostly done. It's funny, a lot of people, like people don't know that I have this singing background. And so when I do occasionally sing, a lot of people will go like, you know how to sing? And to me, I just have always taken it for granted that I just have always had this sort of secret singing thing. going on. Like people love to put you in these little boxes. And,
Yeah.
even when I have all of a sudden performed, one of my, I like to think of her as a muse of mine. Her name is Terry Kelly.
Mm.
When we first worked together, she met me as an actor, and we were doing a show together. And I said to her, we were having dinner, and I said to her, well, I mostly direct. And she was like, oh yeah, sure. And then like a few months later, she walked in the room and was auditioning for something I was doing. And she was like, you're actually a director? And I was like, I told you I was a director.
That's like Brian Stokes Mitchell and Jim Barber. They both really know me as a performer, and every time they see me, they're like, "Okay, why?" They can't figure it out.
Uh-huh.
So it's actually kind of funny. But let's get on to Country Christmas Carol. I want to know
Absolutely.
about this.
Well,
What is it? How is it?
well, it's really it relates to the pandemic in a way. Yeah, I for a while I was the producing artistic director at Lyric Theater of Oklahoma, and
Mhm.
while I was there, I commissioned a show called A Country Christmas Carol, which is a beautiful little gem of a show written by Ronald Kaler and Albert Evans. They wrote this beautiful, beautiful piece, and it was around that time we did the show in Oklahoma. And shortly after that, Tim Jerome became aware of the
Oh,
show,
loved him.
and we did a presentation in New York in around, I think it was by that point, 1998. You know how it is with shows, it takes years to get them up.
Yeah. Mess.
We did a presentation in New York and for National Music Theater Network, and it won these awards. And the next thing we knew, it was published and it was out in the world.
Mm.
And then we started to create a cast album for the show. But because we all got involved in other projects, this cast album just kept dragging on and dragging on and dragging on, and we never finished it. And when the pandemic hit and we started sheltering in place, I was talking to my coach, and she said, what are you going to do during this pandemic while you're stuck at home so you don't climb the walls? And I said, I just pulled it out of the air. I said, I'm going to finish that Country Christmas Carol album. And so I started this goose chase of finding the material we had recorded and then discovering what we didn't record, trying to find the original people so the cast would stay consistent, and realizing, oh my God, there are things that were recorded but aren't finished, but yet we're never going to find these cast members. What am I going to? There's one piece in particular that we didn't record a bridge to the song that is beautiful, and the song needs the bridge to work. So I took the recording that we made and literally had to split it open, create new orchestrations that would match the old orchestrations, and then find people. The lead, luckily, is still a very dear friend, Heidi Carroll Johnson. I was able to find her on a mountaintop in North Carolina. She sang into a telephone, and we used that. I learned a lot about fixing recordings. And then Terry Kelly, who I was just talking about, and my friend Randy Schmelling imitated every other voice.
Wow.
And people are saying to me, they don't even notice where I did it.
Wow.
So it fits together. So then my often collaborative partner, Jamie McDaniel, we were trying to figure out, like, what can we do that could be staged in kind of a socially distanced manner and possibly get something up this year. Because I've always been more of a rainmaker kind of guy, trying to make projects happen. So we decided, well, you're working on the album. Why don't we try to figure out how to do this show like Prairie Home Companion and stage it, with microphones. So we wrote this. We got Ronald and Albert together with us, and together we came up with this version of the show that could be performed like the Prairie Home Companion. We had, I can't really say the names because we don't have contracts, but we had two theaters that were very serious, and it was on again and off again and on again and off again and on. Finally, in October, they said, the final theater said, it's not going to happen. We can't make this happen. And you know, we were totally bummed out and sad, and then Tim, out of the clear blue sky, called me and said, I do this thing called audio stages. Yeah, I put on truncated versions of musicals. Do you want to do a country Christmas carol? And it was like, what? Now, Tim and I had done Cats together. So, and when we were looking for a narrator, we both just thought, what about Terry? What about Terrence Mann as the narrator? I actually had replaced Terry in Cats. So we're all friends. And it was like this reunion, and it just fell into place. And now Saturday, it's happening. It's beautiful. It's like, because we did, strangely enough, record a lot of dialogue from the show. So I had a lot of dialogue already recorded. So we recorded some more dialogue, and then Terry did all of the continuity. Hal Linden came in and played Marley, and he's friends with Tim from the Rothschilds.
Right.
And A Miracle. And then all of these other people, like G. Wayne Hoffman, who had played Scrooge on the recording, said, of course I'll do it. So he played Scrooge again in the scene with Hal Linden, and it came together. It's like a miracle. It was like, my goal was to prove that nothing could stop live theater during this shutdown. And that's another reason why I really haven't been able to keep up with working at the Fifth, because I was heavily into trying to make this project happen out of a labor of saying, I've been doing this my whole life and you're not stopping me now. And that's what happened.
Wow. So when can people see this? Can people buy the album?
The album is released on, I believe, Monday. I think it's December 21st. Mm-hmm. And the audio stages recording with the narration, so the mini musical, the 50-minute musical, will be on for the first time on December 17th. 19th, December 19th.
I was like, wait, that's not.
That's Saturday, right? December 19th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on WBAI 99.5, or you can go to the WBAI website, which I believe is www.wbai.org. And you go to that website, and there's a button that says Listen Now, and it's 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Audio Stages will be presenting A Country Christmas Carol. And I think there's going to be a rebroadcast. It wasn't scheduled, but they've already gotten a lot of interest in the show. So they contacted me, Tim contacted me yesterday and said they're thinking about rebroadcasting it during the holidays. And then it'll be on their archive. So if you miss it, you can go to WBAI.org, look up the Audio Stages archive, and hear this new musical.
What is your favorite part about this musical?
You know, it's from the moment they wrote it, it was the first time the story A Christmas Carol actually resonated with me. It felt very human and very American. It felt more like, it takes place in the 50s. And Bob Cratchit has become Bobby Joe Cratchit, a single mother who is raising 2 kids. And she works for Ebenezer Scrooge. And something about that made me all of a sudden resonate with the concept of community and gathering together for the holidays and needing people, being strong together through all of life's problems. And so Christmas Carol, which I had always appreciated it in a respectful way, but I never felt a lot when I saw it or read it. I thought, this is really curious, and I understand intellectually what is happening here, but it didn't make me feel a lot. And all of a sudden, this production makes me feel. There's a song right at the beginning, Bobby Joe sings "Count to 10, Bobby Joe," when Scrooge is just yelling at her and going at her. And it's this great country song about, having to put up, it's like, take this job and shove it. And I just, from that moment on, I went on the ride with the story.
So yours sounds like a Christmas carol I would love, because it sounds like it's from the heart.
Well, let me send you the album.
I would love to hear it. What other projects would you like to work on, or when this is over, do you have planned for the world?
When it comes to my own projects, it's usually in all of a sudden something in the moment. Just one of the things that I guess people know about me is that I'm pretty straightforward when it comes to saying what I will and I won't do. I've said to some, I maybe regrettably said to some pretty important people, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Mostly because I thought I wouldn't be good at it. I never really wanted. A friend of mine recently said, "You never said yes to some of the projects that were thrown your way, and that probably hurt you. And you always told the truth about them." And I just can't just jump into a project unless I really feel it. So I don't know exactly what's next. There's a new playwright who's become a friend, who wrote a piece that is really funny. She is exceptional. In fact, I likened her to Neil Simon, and I'm not usually a Neil Simon fan, but I was of shows like Barefoot in the Park and Biloxi Blues. I love Neil Simon, but it's not something I think about a lot. But this show really resonated with me, and I'm hoping to do a reading of it. Otherwise, I need a gig. You got something going?
Is there anything that you were sorry you turned down, that you realized, oh wow, I would have done a good job on that?
I can't say I have a lot of regrets. No. I don't know. I mean, there are things I wish I had done. I actually wish I had sung more. I really loved singing, and I really thought that's what I would be doing. But my life just went in another direction. When I did Henry Sweet Henry, that was, at the time, I thought that was the anomaly. I thought that I would be a singer. So I never, ever, I always thought I would direct on the side. And I wake up 40 years later and realize that's not what happened. And in fact, well, you asked me about what I was doing. Someone you may know, my friend Ann Morrison,
Yes.
does something in Florida called Sarah Solo, which are one-person shows.
Right.
And she does them. She does these festivals twice a year, and she has been pushing me to do one. And she has pushed me to the point that I'm on her roster to do one in February. It'll be virtual. But I've been thinking about what will that show be about if I do, in fact, actually do it. And I've been thinking that it's about how you start somewhere and end up somewhere else. And how do you get there? Even though you know intellectually how you got there, connecting the dots between thinking you would be a rock and roll singer to I've been a theater director now for 30 years is starting to boggle my mind. I guess I've been alone in an apartment for quite a while. I've been actually taking singing lessons.
Oh, have you?
Wednesday. Yeah, and I just love it. I actually sang a concert about a month ago, a virtual one. Yeah, it was amazing because I had no idea if I could sing for 70 minutes.
You should bring back ballroom.
Oh, That's an interesting play. Maybe you could do that.
I love that show. I
It's a beautiful
absolutely
show.
love that show.
It's a beautiful show.
Um, it's a show they haven't revived, and I don't understand why. That score is exquisite.
Yeah, it's a beautiful show. It was beautiful then, and it never
Yes.
quite caught on.
Yeah,
Dorothy Loudon, boggles my mind. I watch a lot of Dorothy Loudon YouTube videos because
she was great.
was great. She was great. She
Beautiful.
and so in the moment.
What is your Christmas wish for the world?
Oh, peace, health, safety.
What haven't I asked you that you would like our readers and our listeners to know about you?
Uh, I really believe we're all in this together. I think that it doesn't matter where you make your art. I think as long as if you're an artist and you keep communicating, that's what this is all about. And I think the truly great artists are the ones that continually communicate without even being necessarily aware of how you have to keep communicating to the world. You have to try to get your message out there, be heard. And I don't know, that's what my life has been about.
Well, you've heard it here. This has been with James Rocco and A Country Christmas Carol.